Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today we have a video courtesy of Doom 117 in the Tier 8 premium German battleship, the Tirpitz. And you can see right ahead of him is myself in the Ognavoy, and we were divvied along with Carrier Hornet, who is sailing the Enterprise. And this was during a streak recently where I was just trying to get through the Ognavoy quick and dirty, one night, sat down between flags and camos, ground it all out, and got it done. And some of that was thanks to playing with buddies and people who can help carry those games that maybe you're not having as strong a match. And that's one of the big advantages to a division. You know, if you're all kind of equally skilled and everyone has their games here and there where they really step it up and just put the team on their back, well, if there's three coordinating it, odds are that could happen a little more often. Now, being that we're in a div with Carrier, obviously gonna be some safety in the fact that we're probably more well protected by our CV than the rest of our teammates, and that's just the matter of we're on comms, we're able to say, hey, you know, the CV's coming my way, I need help, and he can respond. You know, sometimes you don't see chat. So that's definitely a bonus, and you can see off the bat here, I'm charging up towards the cap, just trying to get an advanced position, get out in front, spot torpedoes, do some spotting for my allies. And if I can get into the cap, all the bonus. Meanwhile, Doom kind of sitting in the back, not overexposed early. There's no rush to get into the fight right away. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, is they just, oh, game started, sail straight at the enemy. And that can just put you in a tough position. Even more so considering this is a tier 10 game. So we're tier 8s in a tier 10. We're not the tip of the spear, so to speak. A nice volley off the start there, just about 5k onto the enemy Tirpitz, chipping away at his health already. And you can see me going up through the islands, really just hoping to get in and put some torps onto the Terp, but Carrier Hornet there has free access to that enemy BB. You can see as we ride these shells in, the planes going in for a drop, and well, tier 8 planes on a tier 8 battleship, he's gonna be able to get them off. The enemy CV's fighter just a little too late to help him out, and with the amount of damage he ate there, that Tirpitz is a goner. It's really just a matter of time. Now, looking at the map, you can see the majority of the enemy team has gone over to Alpha. And our team doesn't have a huge force there, and that could pose a problem for us. If we're unable to capitalize on the fact that we've got numbers here, we may just find ourselves in a situation where we're fighting not only a deficit in ships, but in points. So as the Tirpitz floods out, there's not a lot left over here, just an enemy Kaba, and the Kaba plays me pretty well here. You know, I was in a smoke, I'm figuring, okay, I've got to get into the cap. That was kind of my primary concern at this point, and looking at my detection in the Ognavoy, I figure I can go north of this island, slip around, waiting for Carrier to finish off these planes and chase them away, and then I've got the gap. And that's going to end up proving to be most of my undoing. I don't die here, but I do eat a lot of damage. And you can see already the Khabarovsk has started turning in, and I've got an island to my south. Meanwhile, Doom just picking the targets that he can hit and trying to put some damage on. And 5 minutes in, he's at, just over 10,000. I'm begging for help against this Khabarovsk, anything to just try to turn him away at this point. I'm a little overexposed. I wish our Edinburgh and Baltimore were putting more pressure on him. The Edinburgh particularly, who's just focusing down the Baltimore, because a DD like the Kaba can really just run around the whole match. Now, I definitely want attention on him too, because he is got his sights set on me and gunning me down. Now, thankfully, I do manage to get away, and we managed to secure the cap as a team. And so far, things aren't so bad. We're down a DD, but the enemies have already lost a battleship. And we've managed to take 2 of the caps early on. And with the CV, getting Bravo on this map should prove very difficult, because we're going to be able to spot anything that's in B there and really just contest it. So at this point, what we need to do as a team is really put ourselves in a good defensive position to absorb the push of the enemy team. Now this Qckslvrslash, it's going to be an absolute pain in the butt the entirety of the game. That's just something you deal with that destroyer sometimes. If you don't have a cruiser in a position to counter those gunboat DDs, a lot of times they're able to just sail around the map and kind of do whatever they want. Now you can see Doom has decided the Baltimore is the target he wants to shoot, and rightfully so. Getting rid of the ships on your flank and just removing them as a threat goes a long way in a game like this, and you can see we're starting to lose the numbers game. Meanwhile, in the south, I've tried to just put myself in a position that I can put my smoke up, get the torpedoes going, and just start slowing down those enemy battleships. If I'm able to do that, I buy Doom time, I buy carrier time, and in this match, I really do feel if I can buy carrier a whole bunch of time, he's going to win the air fight, he's going to get drops onto enemy ships. Now this enemy Benson continuing to contest Bravo, but he's detected, Bravo keeps getting reset, and despite being down 2 ships, we're starting to close this point gap. Now you can see Carrier Hornet keeping 1 fighter group kind of just reserved, protecting Doom, letting him shoot, and Doom hasn't even been shot at this match. Other targets have been the priority, and every time the planes try to come close to get a drop, Carrier just pounces, works them down pretty quickly. You can see there with a strafe, and buys Doom some more time. Meanwhile in the south, I've managed to get some torpedoes into that Montana who's pushing into the cap, and I'm starting to feel really alone down there. And like any ship sitting in smoke, if you don't have spotting, you find yourself in trouble in a hurry. So as the game continues on, we just slowly but surely find ourselves further and further behind. You can see the enemy, the enemy teams absolutely wrecking the Edinburgh that pushed into cap. Our Montana in the south, he's going to get away. You can see me there, still on really low health. And well, the cab had just entered into Doom's secondary range. So maybe the secondaries can do what we haven't managed to do as a team yet. The Baltimore focusing down the cab. If we can get rid of this DD here, it's going to go a long way in just buying us some comfort and just minimizing the harassing fire. Doom's secondary is continuing to chip away. He lands 1 shell there. That cab's dying, but our Baltimore has decided to charge straight in. He's broadside onto a couple of the ships in B, losing hit points, and, well, he's not going to be long for this world. More battleship shells hitting him, erasing most of what's left, and this Qckslvrslash is gonna finish the job. Well, turns out to be the Bismarck secondary, and you can see the most frustrating thing for Doom there. Land shells leaving the Kaba on 29 hit points. Meanwhile, in the south, I perished. Enough of the ships got close enough to me, and when I left my smoke, I was momentarily detected, and that pretty much started the chain that was my death. Now, Doom has seen that. He's seen that really up north here, it's a losing prospect. Too much of the enemy teams here. You're not going to be able to battle that one-on-one. Hopefully Carrier can kind of keep them at bay for a bit, but Doom is heading south. He's going to focus down this Monty and Alsace, and once again, just work on trying to clear one of the flanks. The worst situation you can find yourself in any ship in World of Warships is being flanked on both sides because you're no longer able to control your armor. An absolutely great shot into the Montana there, 3 Citadels, wiping him out quick. Anyone who says the Montana cannot be Citadeled anymore, well, they were just shown wrong by Doom, and in a tier 8 BB nonetheless. So that leaves just a Chapayev and an Alsace here in the south. And while the Alsace can be a bit of a bully of a ship, it's not really looking at Doom. And the fact that secondaries aren't going crazy means it's not a secondary build. He had to close much closer for the secondary fire to start coming his way. Enemy torp bombers are coming in, and this is probably the only time that they're going to get through, and it's simply a fact of carrier has to reload those fighters eventually. Doom seeing it coming though, managing to duck all but one, the one that does hitting the torpedo bulge. Still a lot of damage taken, but gets the repair party up, gets damage control going so he's not bleeding hit points. And well, it seems this Alsace may have forgotten that the Tirpitz has torpedoes. It's inside torp range at 5.8 kilometers, and you saw Doom just fired them off. He's getting himself behind the island. Secondaries continuing to just pepper away, get some work done, and gets a torpedo hit. Sadly, no flood. Tacks on a little more damage with the main batteries there, but most of the shells ricocheting down the hull. Either way though, this Alsace is in trouble. There's a Kurfürst immediately behind him, and while that Kurfürst is getting focused down, he's got his repair party going, so he should last long enough to deal with at least him. The Kappa finally gets finished off by the friendly Z-52, and, well, things are still dire, but they're not horrible. Our team actually has the point lead, and that's, once again, just goes a long way in these situations where you're fighting from behind. Having a point lead prevents you from having to do something drastic. The enemy team still has to try to push into you, or at least push into a cap. And our Zed kind of just protecting the one cap. He keeps using his smokes, using his detection advantage to defend it. And, well, this enemy Bismarck is kind of left out alone. There is an Edinburgh behind him, but the Edinburgh isn't quite the AA beast that the Neptune or Minnow are. It still is decent AA, but not enough, and Doom finishes off the sister ship of the Tirpitz in that Bismarck. And, well, things are still tight, but it's not over. Edinburgh, a very easy ship for Doom to finish off. Chapayev, the same. And that Chapayev's kind of disengaged. He's just turned out and sailed away, and he keeps trying from very long range to just do work. And you can see the Eddie there turning side on to try to get behind the island. Doom manages to get a shot off. No Citadel, 3,000 damage. A little unfortunate. You definitely want more than that, but you take what you can get. Friendly Montana is still alive, heading up to the north. The Z-52 keeping himself alive too. Planes overhead though, he's got to run. And, well, it's time for this Tirpitz to really get deep into the fight. A couple enemy cruisers all around. Planes everywhere. And there's a time to just charge in and use your hit points, and this is kind of it. The enemy team's starting to close in. If you lose carrier, you've probably lost the game simply because you lose that AA. Half those shells hitting the island. Sadly, the only one that connects ricocheting off that Baltimore. And with the Balti heading behind the island, I'd almost say he's not the target you have to worry about. This Mogami and Edinburgh are probably more practical targets. And you can see the Eddie there sitting in smoke, firing his guns, and he's getting closer and closer. Now, based off the Mogami's position, you can kind of guess the range to that Edinburgh. Smoke looks a little bit closer than that. I think it's almost right against the island, though it's hard to say. He may accidentally light himself up by just continuing to shoot out of that smoke as the Montana and as Doom close in. Meanwhile, Mogami, well, bit of an amateur mistake. charging in once again, and he just can't angle against everything. Some very long range torpedoes, more than likely from the Benson there. And, well, things aren't over. The enemy team does finally have 2 caps. They've almost closed that point gap, but side on Edinburgh, once again, only an over-penetrating hit. You know, as good as these guns were hitting that Montana, they haven't been doing the trick against these cruisers, at least until right there. Finishes the Eddie off with 1 pen, 1 overpen. You take what you can get. And the secondary is lighting a fire on the Mogami. And this Mogami, really at this point, now should be dead. Somehow he managed that 180 turn. I think mostly because the Montana focused down on the Edinburgh. And Doom keeps taking shots, and they just keep managing to like barely clip islands. And the shells that are making it there just not hitting quite the right position. The secondary is doing a little bit better, and well, Doom's going to take the shot, says it's going to hit the island, and it does, but the Montana doing work there, really getting some damage down. Some more Torp bombers coming in, and you can see Tirpitz's AA. It's not amazing, but it's adequate, and while Doom is going to eat some of these, if not all of them, he lives. As long as you're alive to fight, that's all that matters. Enemy Enterprise got himself into trouble. Meanwhile, kind of missing it, but this Chapayev is just trying to finish Carrier off, and he can't do it. He's been sitting so far away, and Carrier is actually dark at this moment. He just knows where he was, that he's trying to land a shell, and Carrier's just running away as fast as he can. And even at this point, the game doesn't feel all that secure. Enemy destroyer, if a Carrier can survive, you can light. You've got aircraft, and well, you're about to have skies all to yourself, because Enterprise not in a good spot for a Carrier right now. 2 battleships closing in, and well, he's going to get finished off. You can see already Doom writing off the target. The Carrier is not really the big threat here. The threat is the Chapayev. Secondaries, they can fire the Carrier all they want. Doom is going to take the long-range shot at this Chapayev. Now, this is definitely also a time you kind of wish that perhaps you're in the Bismarck, you know, get that Hydra up, help protect you from the Benson. But it's not the case, and really the Benson hasn't been seen for some time. The secondaries doing their job, finishing the Enterprise off, and well, there's the Benson. Gets lit because he's shooting. Once again, trying to finish Carrier off here. And even if they get him, they do have a big enough point lead that they've probably got this. In slowly working down the enemy ships, they've managed to just maintain that lead they have. 100 points left, a minute 36. The Benson is lit. Carrier, as he was going down, just sent his planes out over the 2 enemy ships, keep them lit as long as possible. Now you can see Doom taking a volley at the Chapayev there with the front guns. Takes about 1/3 of his remaining hit points, and the Benson runs himself aground. So now he is the sole focus. Secondaries peppering away. The Benson backing up, having to unstick himself from those shores. And there it is. Doom picks up the Kraken, gets Confederate, and pretty much secures the game. Because at this point, even if he goes down to this Chapayev, this game pretty much in the bag. Now, you wish the Monty had been pushing up to B already to just make it feel better, but 44 seconds left. It really comes down to survive, and the game is yours. And a Chapayev, it's a deadly tool over time, but you know, the Tirpitz is a tough ship, and while he is firing HE without a bit of luck and some fires, it's just not going to work. Doom continues to chase, is going to have time for one more volley, almost finishing the Chappie off there. One more just like that, and he'll be able to get a 6th kill, really wrap up a strong game. You can see the Montana shells in the air. They miss. You hear that tick of the final few seconds. doesn't look like the shells are going to get there in time, but it doesn't matter. Great game and the win. And when this one was winding down, I was thanking both my div mates for helping carry me. I personally didn't have a bad game, I just didn't have a great game. Doom, on the other hand, had an amazing game. 147,000 damage, even got a torp in, 14 plane kills. The Kraken, Dreadnought, Confederate, even close quarter expert. He kind of did everything, and this was in a game where he was a tier 8 in a tier 10 match. Now, Carrier Hornet in the Enterprise did his fair share of work as well, and really kept Doom safe from the CV threat. Now, granted, it's a tier 8 CV, and the Tirpitz, equipped correctly, has some pretty good AA, but just having that protection lets him focus on doing the damage he needs to do and fighting those bigger battleships. And I just love when games turn out like this. You know, tier 10 match, a lot of people would just discredit it when it started going, I'm in a tier 8. But if you work, you fight, one ship at a time, that's all you got to think about. You can pull these games back, just like Doom did in this one, and as such, finishes top the team. Now, unfortunately, these are WoW replay screen grabs. I didn't have the original one, so we don't know how much XP I got, but he did top the team there. You can see Carrier partway down, and then me a couple spots below him in the Ognivoy. This was a fun game. It's always great seeing the tides of battle change when it's in your favor. It sucks being on the team that you're like, okay, we got this, and then just one by one your teammates mess up or just get killed, and you watch what you felt was a sure thing dissolve from under your feet. Anyways, I hope everyone enjoyed this. I certainly did. If you did, please consider giving the video a thumbs up or subscribing to my channel. And as always, until next time, I am Qckslvrslash.